Electricast.
Minas Gerais não é só história, é o presente e o futuro do Brasil. Eu sou Pablo Spaer, economista, e vim falar para você, empreendedor, que Minas é uma grande opção de investimento e que conta com o maior programa de formação técnica do país, o Trilhas de Futuro. Então não esqueça, na hora de investir, pense mais, pense Minas, vem pra cá, avança, Tourinho! Acesse penseminas.com.br e saiba mais. Minas Gerais, governo diferente, estado eficiente.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to our Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Yvonne Dam. Yvonne is an international coach for those who crave more growth, freedom, and more income to enjoy life. Through her programs and VIP coaching, Yvonne shifts your view on what business success looks like. It's not about working endless hours. It's about smart growth, earning more, and living life your way. I am all about that for sure. So, well, Yvonne, it really is such a pleasure to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, before we dive into your work, it's tradition for me to start my episodes off by having my guests share a little bit about themselves. So with that being said, could you give us a little peek behind the scenes about Yvonne, the woman, who you are without the titles, without all that you do, and then we'll explore what you're currently doing today.
Sure. So I'm Yvonne. I live in Spain, Barcelona. I'm Dutch, as you maybe pick up from my accent. And I enjoy life a lot. I was actually thinking about it today, how amazing my life is. And I love the sun. I love the beach. So where I live is awesome. I'm married and I have a 13-year-old teenager and a Frenchie. And yeah, wow, what can I say? I feel happy.
That's good. I love that. And I love the fact that you have like this really positive vibe about you. So, it's just nice. Like I said, I like my guests to share a little bit of a peek behind the scenes. It's whatever you choose to share. And it's great that you told us a little bit about you as, the wife, the mom too, even a fur baby. So I love that. Thanks so much. So we're in season 3, the first month of January, and the focus is on personal development and growth. The purpose being really to have a focus on empowering women right from the get-go, right from the beginning of the year. So with that being said, I want to talk about what you do. Your approach to business success focuses on smart growth and enjoying life more. Can you share what inspired you to take this path, how your personal experiences have shaped your coaching philosophy, as well as how Amaze your self-coaching came into being?
Yes. So when I grew up, so to say, my youth wasn't the easiest. And that kind of lit a fire under me. So I started my corporate career. And I did quite well for myself. I held leadership positions in finance, HR, sales and business development. And the last 15 years of my career were all about making companies perform better. But I'm a people person and I love nothing better than to have people perform better. And I actually also felt that even though I had on paper an amazing job, I didn't feel really like me. So I quit my job to start my own business thinking that, now I would have all the freedom in the world and I would do, so relaxed. But when you start your own business, nothing is relaxed because a lot of it is all you all of a sudden, even IT, where you used to call IT support. Now it's all you. So I worked a lot and I have a daughter, which I love a lot. And I was like, God, this is not what I want. I want to spend more time with her. So there came the work smart and I became more efficient, more effective. It worked a lot, but I didn't stop working. I must be honest. I wish there was there's always these people that tell you. And then there was this moment that everything changed. I didn't have that moment. I had more like radical decision upon radical decision. I don't want to work so much. And I really had to train myself because I'm very ambitious. I love what I do. I don't mind working. So I had to tune it down to choose a different life, to be there for my family, to have time for me. And once that was in place, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to pass on to others, because I know we very often have the guilt. I can't do this. The guilt, the responsibilities. There's so many reasons why we tell ourselves that we can't have a break or we have to continue working or doing, that I thought this is what more people need to learn.
Yeah, I love what you were saying. I am all about that, as making sure that I'm taken care of too. But I can really relate to that piece where you were talking about making sure that you made time for yourself, like taking those breaks, because especially in entrepreneurship, it isn't easy. You're right. You go from a structured environment where you know what your responsibilities are to now you are the person in charge in creating those responsibilities and trying to figure out when those time zones, like what the time slots are for everything that you have to do. And making sure that you also set aside time to take care of yourself. And that, I think, is probably one of the biggest reasons why I think, especially with the women that I talk to and I work with, is that they burn out easily because they get into that entrepreneurial world and they're doing all the things. They're always constantly in the doing. And even if you like what you do or love what you do, always being in the doing can also lead you down that road too, right? Because you get so excited and you want to do. I mean, I've caught myself even a few times, even recently, where it's like, okay, you know what you're supposed to do. I know you're excited about what you're working on, but you also want to keep that momentum going. And the only way to do that is making sure that you take those breaks. So I do love that you shared that, because I think that's really important. So you help business owners achieve more by working smarter, not harder. I mean, you did mention that. So can you explain how you redefine what business success looks like and why this shift in mindset is so important for personal development and growth?
Yeah. So I think success is always your own definition, right? But for most people, success is more than just making more money. Even though money gives a lot of freedom, if we're not working on ourselves, if we're not happy, if we're not creating a life that we actually really want to live, then, the end of the day, money is just money. And there is this whole fulfillment that is actually making it all more worthwhile. And what I find is that we often kind of forget that there is more to life than just work, more to us than just being an entrepreneur or a mom or what have you. There's also, taking care of us, And I find that entrepreneurs or business owners tend to overwhelm themselves. And I get it, because everywhere you see it on social media, you hear it, you listen to a podcast, everybody's like, you want to be successful, work hard, do more. And then you hear you have to do a podcast and you have to do a webinar and you have to reach out to all your LinkedIn connections, and your mind just goes like, and we want to do it. So what I often start with is asking, how would you ideally want your life to look like? And it's staggering that a lot of women didn't think about it. So my question is always, how much do you want to work? How much time do you want off? How much money do you want to make? And how do you want to make it? And that are those fundamental questions. But it starts with, how much time do you need for you? Because I honestly don't think that we're made to work 12, 14 hours. And I think most of us wanted to start a business because we want more freedom. So if you start there, then all of a sudden everything becomes easier, because it's like, well, this is how much I want to work. This is how many hours I have left. This is what I want to achieve. I want to make more impact. I want to work with so many people. I want to do something that matters. Now, I've only got that time left. So how am I going to do that in the most effective way? And then all of a sudden, you have options, but you choose the ones that goes easiest for you, quickest, you find the most fun, and actually then the choice is easy. If you have those, you know what, this is the one I need to do. And then what's going to happen is all of a sudden things go easy and fun comes back into the business, into life. And then but it can't be. It can't be this easy. It can't be this much fun, because we are conditioned to believe it has to be hard. It has to be difficult. I have to, I can't really have fun because I have to be serious. So there's always that moment when you find your way that's really typical for you, then you have to overcome your conditioning that you actually understand, well, this is how it's meant to be. But you understand that there's a bit of coaching needed because we have all those gremlins telling us, no, easy is not okay. Joy in business is not okay. So,
I just so agree with what you were saying, because I feel it's the question like this: how much time do you need for you? One of the things you said in the beginning was like, what do you want? That's something I think is like, in a nutshell, it's like the question is, what do you want? That is probably one of the hardest questions to answer, like right away. Because usually if you ask someone that question, what do you want? Well, I know I don't want this and I know I don't want that. It's like we automatically, for whatever the reason is, our brain will just automatically go to the negatives of what we don't want. Like you were saying, being conditioned to believe that in order for us to succeed, we have to go through a struggle. Instead of like, why can't it be easy? Why can't we have clarity and things be easy? So I love that you bring that up, because I think there is that conditioning, and how do we move past that conditioning, right? To believe, oh, it can be easy. We just have to learn how to structure and use our time well, and making sure that we protect our time and our energy and all of that. So I love that you shared that. So now let's get to the next question. I want to ask you around, because this is Personal Growth and Development Month. I wanted to be able to really structure my podcast for season 3 to empower women, starting them off a specific way. I really feel like personal development is a really powerful resource that we have, that's pouring into ourselves to have the successes in life that we want. And so I wanted to really structure this whole year for 2025 for really empowering women right from the get-go, starting with personal growth and development. So with that being said, what strategies do you recommend for setting goals that align both personally and professionally so that we feel like we're getting that success and we feel fulfilled?
I love the question. So I'm going to continue with something you said earlier. The question, what do I want? And you said it. It's one of the hardest questions, because we know what we don't want. And even when we set that aside, we immediately go into what we need. I need to take care of my children. I need to whatever. And an amazing exercise, and I really invite you to do this if you're listening, an amazing exercise is to give yourself some time, maybe sit somewhere, light a nice candle, maybe some some lovely music, and then start allowing yourself to write down whatever it is that you desire, without any guilt, without needing to tell someone why you want it. Just the reason that you want it is enough. And then just put your pen to paper and start to write about everything. What do you want in your life, in your health, your fitness, in your personal growth? What do you want? And there is no wrong or right. It's just your desire. And if you do this continuously for a couple of days, or even, I know someone who did it for 25 years, what you will see is that it becomes crystal clear what it is that you truly want, that you truly desire. And then if you take that, it also becomes quicker and easier to set your goals, because you know your goals need to lead to what it is that you actually want. Even though that might be something in the far future, you feel more inspired because now you have put on paper and in your mind, this is what I would like for me. And I can tell you that all of a sudden setting goals becomes easier because you feel more, yes, this is what I really want, instead of, oh my word, I need to lose 10 pounds because if I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see, you know? But if you write down, oh, I just want to feel good in my body. And what do I need to do? Oh, I need to work out more. Oh, what do I love? I want to dance more. There you go. I'm going to, you see, so it's a whole different angle and it's so much fun and it's going to light a little fire in you that you feel like, yes, this is what I'm going to focus on. And then all of a sudden, working on those goals becomes easier as well because it's from you. It's almost from your soul speaking to you what it is that you really desire.
Yeah, I'm all about, we've called it over here, I think it's probably universal, as they call it the brain dump, because it is getting out of your brain all of the things that are up there. And a lot of the time, stuff is up there that is kind of blocking us from thinking about the things that we desire. Because again, like I was saying, it's so easy to gravitate to what I don't want. And that's just because that's what's up there in the brain as well. So I love the idea. I like the idea of setting it up too, like the way you were saying, like take some time to really create that atmosphere with a candle or incense and put some music on and then just allow yourself to dream and write it down. Like everything, nothing's wrong. Everything that you write down is like exactly what you would hope for, like, and not feeling like you have to explain to anybody why you want what you want. I really like that. I think that's a really cool way to do that. So yeah. In your experience, how can business owners plan for long-term sustainable success while still maintaining freedom and enjoyment of life? I mean, for me, it's like there's a two parts to this question. So I'll say the whole thing and then if you need me to repeat anything, let me know. So like in your experience, how can business owners plan for long-term sustainable success while still maintaining their freedom and enjoyment of life? And then in your opinion, what role does future planning play in creating sustainability?
I love the question. So for sustainable success, I believe that it's very important to have a vision, to know where you want to go. And that kind of taps into the second part of your question about the future planning. We were talking about goal setting. If you set your goal, very often we do it for the next year, or maybe we break it up in quarters, and that's what we focus on, which works tremendously well. It works even better if you know where you are really aiming for on the long term. So, for example, I have a coaching business. What would I like with that coaching business in the long run? Do I want additional coaches to work for me? Do I want everything automated? Whatever it is, if you really, if you don't know yet, do some deep dive, some thinking, maybe some brain dump again. What comes to you? What is it that you really, really want to work to achieve at the end? If you have that, again, then it becomes easier because you have a vision, you know what you're aiming for. For example, there's a difference between wanting to automate a lot in my business or hiring extra people to help me. That's a total different path. But it will already define some decisions I'm taking right now. For example, if I say I want to work with more people in my business, then one of the things that are imperative is to write things down, processes, how I want to work, how I want them to work. So my way of working, standard operating procedures is becoming important. Whereas if I am eager to put more technology in my business, I might already think, oh, I want to do more online. Maybe I can already create an online course that in due time can be automated and, be sold as passive income. It's a whole different thing, but that already defines what I'm doing right now. So I think you need the future planning to keep your business sustainable. And I'm smiling because if you're a bit like me, you also like to change your mind now and again. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So don't feel like, oh my word, I already have to know where I want to be in 10 years. What talking about? I don't even know what I'm eating tonight, If that freaks you out, don't do it. But we often, if you really think about it, you have an idea where you want to go to, and then start working on it. But also be flexible, because life changes. A few years back, we have never heard about AI. So you will have to adjust, but it will give you more fulfillment. And I believe personal growth, because you're working on something that you feel good about. And because you have that clarity, it is also easier to take a time out, because you spend less time worrying, you're more focused. So your work-life balance is easier maintainable.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And I love that you brought that up about being open. For me, that's how I work, because I realize that I am a creator and I get a lot of, like, I call them upload downloads that, all of a sudden something will come to me and I'll have these ideas. And so I'm allowing myself to stay open. Yes, I think it's important to have a plan and that vision and having the plan to get to what your goal is. But staying open allows that if something different or better comes along, that it could actually take your desired goal to a whole new level that you hadn't recognized or hadn't believed that was possible. But if you're not that type of person who will allow for it, then you won't allow yourself for that additional growth or that amazing growth that could, like, again, take you in a whole new direction that's way better than the vision that you originally had. And that's happened multiple times for me. So I really think it's important to stay open to it and flexible, especially having a conversation with someone like yourself who this is what you do, and talking to someone saying, well, this is what you want, this is what you said, but now we're talking a month later into working together, and you've had some revelations that have, like, completely blown your mind. And now you're saying, well, I want bigger, and that's okay. You're allowed to, you don't have to stay rigid. So I do love that you talked about that. So I want to talk about you, personal practices for yourself, because I think, again, as business women, we understand that, and you kind of said this in the beginning about taking care of yourself is really important. So what are some personal habits or practices that you've adopted in your life that help you stay aligned with your vision of smart growth and living life fully?
So one of the things, I must admit, I'm not a morning person at all. I'm an evening person. So I don't start my business day before 10 a.m. And I do that so I can drop off my kid. I can do a workout. I can take a long walk with my dog. I can meditate or just listen to, something inspiring. And I really have that time for me. And I love that. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, this is all I'm doing. And sometimes I'm just like, well, today is not a good morning, so I'm taking it slow. But when I don't do that, I can. And sometimes it feels good, but most of the time it doesn't, because I feel like, oh, I need to rush. And when I feel that I'm taking that into my day. What I also do is, I'm not a big fan of planning, but with a business, and especially when you work with others, you need to plan certain fundamental things. So, for example, I've planned that on Tuesday and on Thursday, because I live in Europe, but I work a lot with the States. So due to the time difference, I have days where I work late. That's Tuesday and Thursday. Friday afternoon that's wine. So there's no Friday afternoon. So I blocked that off. And for example, Wednesday morning, I also block off for free time. So even though I have not a lot planned, I have some structure in place that allows me to do the things that I want to do. And for example, Wednesday can mean that I decide, okay, I'm going into town, I'm going shopping, or I'm just going to have a coffee somewhere. Or it can be that I decide I'm going to spend time with my kid when she's not in school or something like that. And I can also decide to work. But it's up to me. And I like that flexibility. That's very important for me. So there are people that say, well, every morning from 9 to 10, I've got it blocked and I do this. It works for a lot of people. For me personally, it works like a week. And then I become very rebellious and I go like, yeah, or I don't do that. I do something else. So I've learned to have the freedom to do what I want, but also the structure that is needed to work with clients, to work with my team. And that helps me a lot because otherwise I honestly, mentally, I would go bonkers. And I don't want to start too early. That are the two main, next to a whole lot of other things, but the two main things that really help me to stay true to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that though. And you already just said something which to me is really important, and is that you've blocked off time for you as non-negotiable already on your calendar, which I believe is a best practice. I feel like that is, for me, the most important thing is putting yourself on your calendar first. Like, what do you need that's going to help you show up the best that day, or that, like whatever it is that you put in. I think that's important. Like you said, blocking off the time in the mornings to do whatever it is that you decide. It has to align with your lifestyle and something that you're going to enjoy doing. And it's going to become habit for you because you're going to do it. Because any habits that we put in place, they have to start somewhere. And a lot of the time habits can feel like they're hard because it's something that we're not used to doing. But it's the same thing, like I believe as a kid, when you're always telling your children when they're little, make sure you brush your teeth, make sure you brush your teeth. And over time it becomes habit. You don't have to tell them anymore. And it's the same thing of us putting habits on our calendar for ourselves so that we don't even have to think about like, oh, I have a list here and I have to look at the list. What do I have to do next? No, it just becomes so habit for you that you wake up, you go for your run, you take your dog for a walk, you meditate, you journal, whatever that looks like for you. I think that is really powerful. So I have one more question with you. What are some best practices you would like to leave our listeners with, especially for entrepreneurs who feel overwhelmed by the pressures of life, so that they can continue seeking growth opportunities without sacrificing their personal happiness?
I love that. So when you're overwhelmed, there's one thing that is happening. You're doing too much. It's very simple and it's very annoying at the same time, I know. So if you're overwhelmed, the one thing I really advise you to do, whether it's from life, whether it's from your business, whether it's from both, what you need to do is you need to pause. And this sounds counterintuitive because when you're overwhelmed, all you want to do is like do the thing, and do a bit more and a bit more and a bit longer. And then your head explodes, right? So you need to pause and you need to look at all the things that are on your radar that you feel you need to do. Because what is happening when you're overwhelmed, you are incapable, and I say this lovingly, but you're incapable of prioritizing. So what very often happens when we're overwhelmed is we're going to start with the stupid little things that aren't a priority. But why do we do it? Because we're so overwhelmed. Our mind is kind of blocked that we can only see, oh, but if I do this, then that's already out of the way, right? That's what we tell ourselves. And then before we know it, we spend half the day on this very irrelevant stuff that could have waited another week because we're postponing on the important stuff because our brain doesn't cope anymore. So important is to take a break, pause, maybe just honestly take some deep breath or listen to something that helps you relax a bit. And then either write it down, or what is very helpful is put it all on Post-its. If you put it all on Post-its, you can also group them. This is something I need to do for work. This is something I need to do for business. This is something I need to do for school, whatever. So you can group it. And then what you do is you're going to look at it and you're going to ask yourself, what is it I want to achieve, right? For example, I have a big deadline. I need to deliver something to a client. Okay, that's very important. But I also need to call the school of my child. And that's important because there's also a deadline. Well, two things I need to do. Everything else clearly can wait. Okay. The phone call might be 1 minute or 5. So I start there. That's done. And then I devote the time for that deadline. And what you will see is if you continue to work on those things, is room you get a bit more headspace literally because you are, okay, I've done that. But also by making all the things you need to do visible, it becomes very clear that a lot of these things are not urgent, are not important, or maybe should not be done by you. And then you're going to hand some things back. You're going to take some Post-its and you're going to make them into little balls and they go into your bin and you don't look at it. And that's the main thing. You're going to see that some of the things that are on your list don't have to be done now, don't have to be done by you, or don't have to be done in that way that you put them on paper, because that can also be a thing. You can make it very big and you can also do it smaller. So there was a long answer, but in short, if you take a break, look at what you have to do and actually prioritize and only focus on the things that are immediately important and go from there.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything about it. And I think too, one of the things I love about the Post-its is you are able to lay it out, but you're right. It's actually knowing what we have on our calendar. And there's that question out there. How many hours do you think you work every day? And people might think that they work like a full 8-hour day, but once they actually put it down on paper, they come to realize, oh, it's really only a couple hours. And then what's happening with the other 6 hours is a lot of that overwhelm and trying to figure things out and kind of procrastinating and going off and doing something else to sidetrack yourself. And, and you think that you're working, or you think that you're on social media because that's part of your, being an entrepreneur, being online and looking at maybe other people's content and commenting because you're trying to have engagement, and maybe you're managing a Facebook group or whatever that looks like. And you think that you're really spending quality business time, but find out later when you start looking back, oh, I was really just scrolling and then I got caught up in a lot of things. So I really love that. And then the other part, being able to just see like what really is important, because we sometimes will put importance on things like you were saying that we can either pass off to somebody else if we can. And if we can't, then is it important to do right this second? And then the other thing is like, what is priority for today? Well, like you were saying, I have a call for my daughter, for my child at school, and I have a client deadline that I have. Those are the two most important things for me today. And then whatever else is in there that I feel is important. And then what else is there that I can hand off to a team member if I have a team, or that I can maybe put somewhere else or rethink it to see if that's really how it's supposed to be done. I really like that answer. So, Yvonne, thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing your approach to smart growth, to business success, living life fully. I love how you encourage entrepreneurs to really work smarter, not harder, and truly enjoy the journey, because life is all about living. I mean, when you think about it, if we're not living our life to our full capacity, and that's with joy, we're not really living a life that is quality. So I really feel like when you were saying, learn to work smarter, not that harder mentality. You don't have to believe that struggle is the only way to get through something, to feel like you can be excited for accomplishing a goal. It doesn't have to be hard. As always, I make sure that my guests, all of their contact information is in the show notes so that listeners can connect with them. So yours will be in there and they can connect with you directly and learn more about your Amaze Yourself coaching programs and anything else that they might want to check you out on social media, follow you to see what you're doing, and maybe reach out for other things as well. So I really appreciate you taking time to be with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a truly pleasure.
Thank you. And to my listeners, to our listeners, I hope you found today's conversation helpful in rethinking how you approach your own personal growth and business journey, it doesn't have to be hard, right? It doesn't have to be hard in order for you to be successful at what you do. It can actually be easy when you have clarity of your vision and you have that planning and you have an open mind that doesn't all have to just stay rigid in one way. Remember, it is possible for you to seek out new opportunities and achieve your goals as well without sacrificing your happiness and your well-being. So reflect on what you've learned today and see how what you've learned can inspire you to live life on your own terms. Again, a reminder, if you're excited by what Yvonne has shared today, and I've been really excited listening to all of your shares, Yvonne, and you want to learn more, check out the show notes for all the ways to get in touch with her. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. Electricast.